Hi, everybody. Welcome to NostrDevs number 5. Yeah. Woo! And today we're going to learn about all the different cool things that have happened in Nostr in the last month. We got me as the host or co-host with my co-host Captain Stacks, and this is going to be awesome. So, you guys ready to get started? I wanted to get started with a video clip from a developer named Uncle Bob, and he gives a brief description of the structure of a Nostr event that I thought is just something that we would want to share together. So let's just play this clip to start off. This is from Uncle Bob, legendary developer from not even in the Bitcoin space. He's just a legendary developer in general. Here's what he had to say. Is the audio from my never mind. Yes, I'm not sure if it'll play through though. Let's find out.
Pub key, which stands for public key. And that is a number. Now, it may not look like a number because it's got A's and B's and C's in it, but that's because it's written in base 16. If you'd like to see this number in decimal, it looks like this. It's 77 digits long. So what is this public key, this 77-digit number? It is the identifier for the author. Remember the author? His name was Kevin the Barbarian. That 77-digit number down there is Kevin the Barbarian's identification code. And yes, that means that everyone on Nostr is represented by a number. There's a man who leads a life of danger.
I just think that's pretty fun. Like, people are making funny videos about Nostr, which is great. So I'm going to just share that with a new notepad we're going to make, and I will do this on Telegraph, because there's not yet a good Telegraph alternative on Nostr that I can think of. NostrDevs number 5. Funny video about Nostr events. Okay, so that was the first thing I wanted to share to get us started off with a little humor from Uncle Bob, legendary developer, who's really interested in Nostr and he loves music. The next thing I wanted to share from my list of things that have happened in the last month comes from pretty recently. 3 days ago, the Gossip client got running on a phone. So that's what that looks like. Obviously, it's got some flaws in it because, like, elements are crashing into each other and stuff. But it's pretty cool that someone's getting another Nostr client to work on a phone, and I'm really looking forward to see the Gossip client. I want to download it and use it. So yeah, that's kind of cool. People are making Nostr apps left and right. Next thing we want to talk about is Threads. Threads is a new Facebook offering that they created as an alternative to Twitter, because Twitter is having some problems lately, and Facebook wanted to exploit that opportunity to make Threads. So let's go take a look at Threads. Here it is. This is a different thing. Threads.net. They couldn't. This sucks. Okay, had enough of Threads? This thing sucks. Okay, now if anyone gets bored with Super Testnet's presentation up here, we're using the tag system again, so you can tag me out. Like, I just had a crash and burn with Threads, and if you guys are like, no more Super Testnet, you can tag me out, and Captain Stacks will come up and present instead. So just do that whenever. Throw me out. The next thing I wanted to go over is some statistics. So on primal.net, they've got this great explore tab where you can view statistics about Nostr. And so you can see, like, we're getting more than about a post every second over here on Nostr, which is kind of nice. It counts the number of users, the number of public keys, and all this cool stuff. How many Bitcoins have been zapped? 11 Bitcoins have been zapped. That's amazing. So yeah, definitely check out the stats. But in particular, I wanted to look at new users, because since Twitter's been having some trouble, we've seen usage numbers go up, in Nostr. So about here is where Twitter started having problems, down here in the bottom right, and then you can see a big increase in the number of users of Nostr, number of new users, new signups, or signups aren't really a thing in Nostr, but new accounts. So that's kind of cool. We see a spike, and hopefully we will have retention for those users. Actually, let's just check. Do we have good retention for users? It looks to be increasing, actually. Retention, this yellow line indicates the number of users who have kept their Nostr account since April, and it's climbing. It's actually higher than it has been. I mean, kept on posting, like yeah, like didn't just make one post and then leave. If they kept posting, then it's they're considered retained, and it's growing. So Nostr still sucks, but it's getting better, and you can tell it's getting better because people are sticking around, and that's real nice. Nice to see. Woo! Nostr's winning. All right, so those are some stats. And the next thing I wanted to go over is not Zapple Pay. I wanted to go over, which one is it? This one. This one leads to the Zapple Pay thing. So this says, Damus will be removed from the App Store in 14 days. Apple says Zaps are not allowed on their platform because they could be used by content creators to sell digital content. Can I get a round of boos for iOS, for Apple? Boo! Apple doesn't want freedom on their platform because people might be free with it. Who wants that? So, in response, Damus disabled zaps on posts, and you can only zap people's profiles now in it because Apple said that's okay. They said we're fine with people zapping their profiles, just not their posts. And that's kind of sad. You know, we have this freedom monetary network, and we have this free open communication protocol, and Apple's trying to prevent them from meeting. But you know what? The internet never loses. The internet always wins. And the internet came up with a solution to Apple's attempted censorship. And that solution is Zapple Pay. Has anyone here tried Zapple Pay yet? We got someone in the back who's tried it. I've certainly tried it. And it's kind of neat. What the Zapple Pay lets you do is you can plug in your Nostr npub, and Zapple Pay will begin following your tweets, or following your following your notes. And it'll look for you to send a reply to someone that is one of these emojis. And then you can tell it that you want to zap, whenever you post that emoji as a reply to someone's post, you want it to zap that person for a certain amount of money. Then all you got to do is connect your Lightning wallet, which you can do with the Nostr Wallet Connect connection string. You can enable those on Alby, for example. Alby has support for that, and LND has support. There's an app for doing that with LND. And once you have all that connected, this Zapple Pay website will just find your replies containing this emoji and zap that person straight from your Lightning wallet, getting around Apple's censorship. So yeah, guys, the internet never loses. Zaps are back. Zaps are back on Damus. You can just use this and then get around Apple's censorship because somebody else implemented it through emojis, which is pretty sweet. Unless Apple's like, you're also not allowed to have emojis or something like that. We'll be good. Yeah, I was talking to the other gentleman, like they could be like, you're just not allowed to have zaps at all, like even on profiles, because this is just zapping their profile in response to an emoji, which they said is allowed. They could be like, you're not allowed to do that anymore either. No more zaps to profiles because people are using it to get around our restriction. Come on up. Oh, okay. He said it's possible that Apple's just going to ban emojis and letters. Austin said you can't do it for one app and not do it for another or you'll get sued. I think they can. I don't think there's any rule that says you have to be consistent in the application of your policies. I'll bet they could just be like, because Twitter has zaps on... Twitter has zaps on profiles. If you can put a Lightning address, or not a Lightning address, a strike.me link in your Twitter profile, and Twitter will let you zap people by sending them sats straight to their Twitter profile. That Jack enabled that before he left, and it's still there. But they allow Twitter, like, so they could. It would be really inconsistent for them to say you're not allowed to zap people's profiles on Damus, even though you are allowed on Twitter. And I don't think they're going to ban Twitter, but I do think they could just apply it discriminately and be like, hey, you're allowed to do it on Twitter, but not on Damus, because we just said so. So we'll see. We'll see what happens on there. For now, Zaps are back as long as you use Apple Pay as a workaround. So check that out. Yeah. Do you want to? Should I do a demo of how to get it? How to do it on Albi? Because I can do that. I have Albi on my Brave. Yeah. So let's see. If I open up Albi, and then I go. Yeah, you're right. It's nwc.getalbi.com. So here is the website you need to go to, so you can all see that, nwc.getalbi.com. You can log in with your Albi account. And then once you're logged in, did it work? Yeah, now it's happy. Once you have this, you can create a Nostr wallet connection string, test, and confirm it. And using the, well, I'm not going to show you mine, but you open up that, and the string, it'll give you a string which you can paste into Apple Pay right down here, and that'll connect it to your Albi, which then you can have Albi connected to your own full node, and then you're good. Or you can just use Albi's built-in wallet. But yeah, that'll allow you to get around the Zap restrictions pretty easily by just using zapplepay.com and nwc.getalbi.com. So check that out, try it out, and poke Apple in the eye. All right. Next thing on our list. Damus did not actually get removed. They just disabled the Zaps, and then Apple Pay added them back, so everything's good again. Next thing on our list is OpenSats. OpenSats is I'm surprised nobody's tagged me out yet. Tag me out. I'm gonna tag myself out since no one's done it yet, and we'll bring up him to talk about the next things, and then I'll come back and talk about this afterwards. All right.
I don't know if we want to switch out.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to either. Can you use my laptop because his thing is so finicky?
Well, I'm not going to be able to use your laptop to share the Android apps that I'm running. So it would be nice.
We'll share the other things, and we'll get to that at the end. That'll be the last thing. Oh. Yeah. Can we do screen sharing? Can you share your screen with me on Zoom or on Jitsi, and then we'll. Every time you unplug this, it gets. Yeah. All right, we'll do that at the end. Yeah, I'm tagged back in, and after we're all done with the stuff I have, then we'll go to him and we'll see if we can get it working. And if not, we'll just end, and that'll be it. That'll be the end of it. So OpenSats is a Bitcoin developer-focused fund, and they provide money to people who develop on Bitcoin, and most recently Nostr. So they have a little post here that says Nostr is a censorship-resistant open-source communication protocol that is incredibly complementary to Bitcoin. Notice how they had to add this line to justify why they're giving money to something that's not Bitcoin. I think that's cute. We are funding 16 projects in our first round of Nostr grants. Much more to come. We are just getting started. Look at all these people who are getting money. NDK, Obla, Coracle, Iris, Damus, Rust Nostr, and Nostr SDK, Nostr Relay, Nest.js, Soapbox, Code Collaboration over Nostr, Satellite, Amethyst, Pinster, Nostr.build, Gossip, Nostr SDK, iOS, Nostr Design. None of it was me, so we're done. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Well,
Austin can tell you. Come up here, Austin. I don't know.
There's NDK. There's There's Nostr iOS SDK.
Nostr SDK is a high-level Nostr client library written in Rust. If you're writing a typical Nostr client or bot, this is likely the crate you need. Packages in Rust are called crates. They're called packages in other languages like JavaScript. You might know them as apps. Apps are called crates. But you can use a package manager, which is like an app store, to install them, and they're called crates. Crate, C-R-A-T-E, crate. They're called Rust crates. The crate is designed in a modular way and depends on several other lower level crates. If you're attempting something more custom, you might be interested in these. So then he gives you a little demo. No, because I'm mostly a JavaScript developer and a little bit of Python sometimes. I've never used Rust, so I haven't used any of this stuff. Has anyone in here developed in Rust on Nostr? No? Well, if you're interested in doing that, here's a great starting point. Use the software development kit and go for it. All right. Any other questions about other people who are getting money from this granting fund? All right. Carr thinks it's really cool that they're allocating some money. I think it's cool too. Nostr's lucky. Nostr's gotten it's shot up in popularity and it's getting more funding than Bitcoin already, which is kind of neat. Why do I think, well, so the question is, why do I think Nostr's getting more funding than Bitcoin? Well, first of all, I'm not really sure that's true. That was kind of a joking statement. It certainly seems like it. I hear a lot more about it than I hear about Bitcoin funding. But if it is true, one reason might be that it's social. I think that there has been a lot of success in social, and there's a lot of problems in social right now that need to be solved, and Nostr solves some of them. And there might be a stronger appetite for that and for the chance of success of that, more so than there is for yet another Bitcoin gift card company or something like that. So, yeah, that would be my guess, but I don't know if it's true that there's more funding for Nostr than Bitcoin. It just kind of feels like that lately. Okay, so there's that. And then, any other questions? Or does that make sense? Yeah, okay.
Not to be a bear, but why is it good to be allocating funding to multiple competing different Nostr clients when to me not building a Nostr client is the lowest barrier of entry that kind of anyone can do. It's not difficult or valuable. Not that it's not valuable, but
Right.
It's
This is a really complicated question now, so I have to repeat some of what I can remember of it. Is it good that we're seeing a lot of funding given to competing Nostr clients, given that that's one of the easier things you can do in Nostr? Why allocate so much funding to the easiest part? Why not allocate it to the harder parts? Does that sort of get your question, or?
Yeah. For me, it's just kind of just a red flag.
It's a red flag, I guess, according to him. I don't think so. It's really easy to build a Nostr client. That's true. It's not really easy to build a good client, I don't think. So I think all the clients we have suck, and that's why Nostr sucks. So Captain Stacks points out that the clients we have today are not ready for mass adoption. I agree. I think that's why retention numbers are typically low. People just don't really like Nostr. So yeah, I think it's really hard to make a good client, and allocating funds, I don't think is a misallocation. I think that's good. It's good thing.
But a lot of them either lost their job or they don't have a job and all they do is Nostr stuff. They're not funded any other way. I know at least two of those people that I've talked to personally about that. So I would say
At least two of the people on this list don't have jobs other than working on Nostr.
that's where I would say that's where they probably
And that might be one of the reasons why they're seeing a lot of funding head in this direction, is because it's kind of needed. Yeah, a lot. Maybe there's all the Bitcoin developers are super rich, just holding Bitcoin since 2010, and they don't need funding because maybe. I don't think that's true, but it's certainly a thing someone could say. That's true. I am a gazillionaire. So, all right. So that's the OpenSats thing, and that has been the most interesting topic of discussion so far. The next thing is a post from Edward Snowden. I thought this guy was in jail. Didn't he get arrested and thrown in jail? Assange? But like he posts on Twitter too, doesn't he? Okay. Ross Ulbricht? Is he in jail? And they let him have a Twitter account? Like what's prison these days? He just Oh, he writes letters to his mom and his mom posts it. Ross Ulbricht. Okay. Ross Ulbricht, Julian Assange, and Edward Snowden, to me, are all the same person. I know they have different cultures and histories. They're the same. They might as well be the same. He says it's a good day to check out Nostr again because Twitter sucks. Because Twitter's sucking. Yeah, maybe the way that Nostr will succeed is it doesn't have to get good. Just everything else is going to suck even worse. so people will gravitate toward Nostr. Reddit has been going down the drain because they're limiting API requests. Twitter started limiting API requests to their website. I think we're going to see more of that. And as you do that, you're going to tank in the ratings. Nostr, it doesn't have any ability to restrict API access on it, so it will. I guess it could climb, or maybe it'll just be overwhelmed with the spam. I've been hearing from Elon Musk and I think the Reddit people too said that part of the reason they're doing this is because ChatGPT is constantly querying them 24/7 and using up their bandwidth, and it's not like it's just costs a whole bunch of money to them to let ChatGPT do that. So they've been trying to limit it, but it can spin up new identities and stuff and get around. It can get around API limits really easily. So I don't know. I'm making some of that up, but I've heard that AI is part of the problem here, and yeah, I guess on Nostr one of the things we can do is we can charge Sats for API requests. So that's kind of cool. But yeah. Check out Nostr again because Twitter and its competitors keep on getting worse and worse. And relatively, even if Nostr still sucks, if everyone else is coming down, Nostr will finally be above, which is great. And he's even recommending things. He's even recommending different clients. Love is Bitcoin has a post. Someone zapped me a cashew token. I claimed it easily through Amethyst. This is based on a post by Cali BTC, who shows a zap he received for 21 sats that contains a cashew token. So cashew tokens are these enormous jumbles of gobbledygook that contain money. You can go to the cashew website, plug this in, if you were the recipient, plug it in, and it would redeem some money for you. Probably more than the 21 sats you received was included in this thing, which is kind of cool. Another way to use zaps is to integrate them with cashew, which is a custodial service, by the way, but they do have this kind of neat thing. Yeah, same thing as like a Fedi token. It's just this big long string that contains essentially a password that lets you redeem some money. It's like encrypted and stuff though, so only the right person can redeem it. Yeah, something like that. I think I got part of that wrong too, but that's kind of neat to see integration between cashew, LNURL, and what's it called? Zaps, all integrating and working together. Is anyone here unfamiliar or want more information about cashew? No. Oh, we got an eCash hater here. Do you want to come up and tell us why? Tell us why eCash sucks.
So I've been following Justin at ShockNet. He's been pretty active on Twitter, and he has a Nostr account, but really hasn't been active on Nostr. But I think he considers himself a Lightning maximalist, and he's opposed to solutions that he would see as competing with Lightning. So he's very much opposed to CBDCs. He thinks a lot of the things that we're seeing as possible, like Lightning alternatives, could be a bait and switch that is going to push everybody into a CBDC system. So he's a little bit of a conspiracy theorist, but I'm glad there's somebody out there asking these questions.
So you're saying that, or he's saying that all these cash tokens could potentially just be CBDCs.
Yep, he sees it kind of. I guess it would kind of roll over into a CBDC, because the point is, like, with eCash, you don't have your keys at all. You don't. A lot of people on Lightning don't have their keys, but on eCash, you're just opting into a custodial system, and I guess part of the concern is that. Yeah, well, I think part of the concern here is that eCash, the way it's marketed, it is marketed as, oh, this is another Bitcoin layer. This is layer 3. And people will draw a distinction between that and something like a Coinbase account, when it's fundamentally no different than just having your funds in a Coinbase account. So it's this is an attempt to kind of push back on a lot of the direction, and it might not be very popular for me to say these things, but I think Justin is a great resource for somebody who's not afraid to ask these questions. He works on Lightning Video. I actually found out about him from Super Testnet. Just to give you an example of where he's coming from, he's also very skeptical about Bolt 12, just because he sees it as kind of competing with the Lightning that we all know and love. He's like, why are they, I don't know, I guess he has concerns that it could be dividing and fracturing the ecosystem. I don't know as much about Bolt 12 and the concerns around it, but I do think it's interesting that you have somebody like that who kind of presents like a real like fundamentalist Lightning conservative who's a Lightning maximalist, and by that I mean like hold your keys with Lightning. So it's very easy to get into Lightning and never hold your keys, but if too many people do that, then we wouldn't really have a working layering system. Okay, I guess now would be a good time to get into the Nostr developments I wanted to go over. I just plugged it in. Yes. Is this one working? Cool. Okay. So I want to bounce off of the first thing we saw, the Uncle Bob video, because I just found out that Uncle Bob is on Nostr within the past week, and I was super stoked. I think I had seen the Uncle Bob account, but I didn't put two and two together and realize that this is the legendary Bob Martin, author of Clean Code. So this is a guy who made a name for himself decades ago, before Bitcoin was a thing, just in the world of software development, agile methodologies, and the author of Clean Code. And his enthusiasm for Nostr makes me bullish. So a couple interesting conversations with him today. Here's one. I think this was this conversation might have been sparked by discussion over threads. I think that might have started it. But anyway, they're talking about the political divide, left-right divide on the protocol level. And I thought this was an interesting take by Uncle Bob, where he's talking about how lefties seek this protection against misinformation. And this is something I noticed last year, and I pondered heavily. Before I had jumped into Nostr, I mean, it existed. I hadn't really considered it. I didn't really know much about it or know the potential of it. But to me, free speech on the internet seemed like an insurmountable problem. You have people who think that, well, there has to be like some kind of centralized, basically anti-misinformation authority, and that's going to keep everything straight. and there would be, I guess, the left-right divide, as I perceived it last year, was you have that argument on the left, and then the argument on the right was basically, well, companies like Twitter are public utilities, and they should just have like a constitutionally enforced thing to say, like, okay, the First Amendment applies here. Like, you can't, as a corporation, you can't just use the argument of, well, it's our platform, we get to make the rules. So I think there was a conservative argument that was basically saying that, no, the rules are free speech is enforced because of the First Amendment, and it is going to be enforced on these platforms because we're going to consider them utilities. But the third option is protocols, open protocols. And we're actually seeing the capabilities of that now. To be fair, Fediverse has been around for, I guess, over a decade, but it doesn't have the full, it's not fully self, like, you don't own your identity in the same way. So it's almost a hybrid between like the centralized model and something like Nostr. So yeah, Uncle Bob thought it was hysterical to see lefties fleeing Twitter, but then just basically going from one custodian to another when you have Nostr where you don't need any custodian, right? There's no custodian for your account. That's where your creation of your identity and your profile on there is a completely permissionless process. So I thought that was cool. Another conversation that he popped into here, this relates to threads. And one thing I'm not sure everyone's aware about threads, it does embrace a form of decentralization, because they came out from the get-go and said, this is going to be an ActivityPub supporting app. So in other words, it would be in the Fediverse. It would be like maybe like a competitor to Mastodon, I guess. Now, when they launched, disappointingly, like, they're like, oh, well, we're not supporting it now. And that's understandable, rushing to get a product out there. They're still saying at least that they are committed to having this Fediverse support. So here's an idea by Derek Ross that what we could see is we could have threads by Meta embracing the Fediverse decentralized ecosystem, and then Twitter could eventually embrace the Nostr. It could become interoperable with the Nostr decentralized ecosystem. Uncle Bob is skeptical. It's not clear how Twitter could integrate with Nostr and still maintain a business model. I 100% agree. I think Nostr is here to really disrupt a lot of business models where if you have a business that relies on some kind of walled garden, I think Nostr is eventually going to demonetize that. And it's going to be unfortunate even for some companies that we might currently like that are in the Bitcoin ecosystem. But a lot of things will change, and with Nostr, it's really difficult to remain profitable long term when you're just a purveyor of software or information, because these are things that want to be free. They're easily replicable. So I would take Uncle Bob's concern here pretty seriously, where in the long run there probably isn't a real sustainable business model for Twitter as another Nostr client. But I could be wrong. I don't see any inclination on their part, though, to want to get into the Nostr ecosystem. They seem, if anything, I feel like they're moving in the opposite direction, where they have the opportunity to, they could be, going in the direction of, exactly. They're obvious, yeah, because they have, yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it seems like Twitter had the opportunity where they could have embraced Bitcoin. They had a very minimal like tipping system that was, Yep.
People recognize how important it is to be building in a freedom state.
Mm-hmm.
You have companies, especially Bitcoin and even tech companies that are built in San Francisco, California, and New York, those places. That's what you're gonna get.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yep. 100%. Like
what did he say? I couldn't. You didn't.
unfortunately, I don't remember everything he said. Oh, okay. So the gist of it is, if you want to build freedom tech, you have to build it in a freedom state. Get out of California, come to Texas, and build it here. That's the way.
Or Tennessee.
Or Tennessee. That's another good option. Okay. Oh yeah. So Twitter, they kind of dabbled with lightning-based tipping, but it didn't really go anywhere with it. It wasn't a truly like decentralized approach because it was built on Strike, and I think they're more enthusiastic about Dogecoin. So, yeah.
I think that'll be cool because there's a bridge between the Fediverse.
Yes, that's something I'm looking forward to actually.
Like, so the Fediverse doesn't seem as big.
No, so it has nothing to do with Fedimint. It's a web protocol. It's basically standardized. I'm pretty sure a W3 spec. It's the ActivityPub protocol. So Mastodon just runs on that protocol, and it's somewhat decentralized. Like you have these instances, they're servers. You could compare them to relays, but unlike with Nostr, your identity is still like custodial with that server. It's not permissionless, and also these instances are larger, and you're no. Nostr has advantages where your servers can remain a lot smaller and you don't have to be tied to one. You can be on a lot of different relays and get different experiences based on your current relay selection.
You can do stuff on Fediverse. You can subscribe to Fediverse servers and have it close to all of them. That way, like with Nostr, it shuts you down.
Does that require having multiple identities? Mhm. Right. I mean, you can make an analogy to using Nostr that way, and it would just be really, really clunky. So,
But it was like part of the ideas for Nostr and good things.
yes, and it's important to acknowledge the good things from Mastodon. And well, Mastodon, I think, is not the perfect analogy. Mastodon is like it's one of the instances, right? It's like I guess it would be the equivalent to being the largest relay, I guess.
No, they're not a relay.
They're a client.
The equivalent of Office.
I see. Okay. But then isn't mastodon.org also an instance and maybe one of the biggest ones?
Yeah, like Donna said.
It's really confusing for somebody like me looking into it because it's like there's been a decade or more of activity and I hear all this terminology that goes completely over my head, but I'm sure Nostr probably looks the same way to an outsider. But it's been really encouraging and really bullish to see some of the developers from the Fediverse that are coming over to Nostr. People like they don't have zaps. They'll have where your profile can have a various cryptocurrency addresses. Though you can, one of those, like it's different fields in your profile, you can have a Lightning address as those. So I can actually zap people in the Fediverse through the bridge because I see them across this bridge. And to Super's point, it is cool that Threads is talking about integrating with a decentralized protocol because there is the bridge. So I could potentially see, I could be in my Nostr client and potentially see posts come over from Threads and reply, have a two-way bridge. Yeah. And that's something that currently works with the Fediverse. So the bridging is good. Twitter has basically been shutting off any semblance of bridging. It never was a two-way bridge with Twitter, but at least you had the API access where Twitter content could come into Nostr, but now apparently that's dead. I don't know if that's going to come back. I don't know if it was a temporary measure, but yeah, so could be the end of.
So
Mhm.
they're usually on their way out.
Yeah.
I've seen that time and time again on that, and then within 5 years.
Yeah, it doesn't, to me, it's bearish for Twitter because Meta has the advantage of a user, like 3 billion user base, right? Now, next thing we'll see, we're going to actually see threads. This hopefully we can redeem ourselves for the technical difficulties earlier. But I'm pulling up the Threads app. I just downloaded this, and I'm actually running Windows subsystem for Android. So, yeah, I checked out Threads.
I don't know what that means, but it sounds autistic.
I like that. Yeah, so ask me anything. I'm running Threads. At this point, it seems like it's kind of like beta software. Like they definitely released it kind of early, where there's not a lot of options. So like on this home screen, I'm pretty sure I'm just seeing an algorithmic feed, where I would really like to at least have the option to see just real time. Like at least on Twitter, you have both options. Yeah, it feels empty without zaps. That's for sure. So I followed Udi. He was on Nostr for like 2 days, and then he's like, well, okay, this sucks. I'm going over the threads. Did y'all see that? Okay. But yeah, he's on Threads, and he has about 2,500 followers. And a lot of what he's posting about, it's kind of meta, because he's posting about sharing alpha, sharing ideas on how to build an audience on Threads, which I guess is useful for people that want to do that. But it really seems to be a place that caters to influencers and people who already have large followings. For somebody new just trying to jump in, it's going to feel like just talking into a void. I don't know how that's going to evolve over time, but I checked it out. I don't see myself actually using it, but I could see myself eventually having it as a way to reconnect with people that maybe people back home, people that are on Facebook, maybe they're on Instagram and wouldn't use Nostr, but if eventually there is some kind of bridging that's possible. Yeah, and I'm not going to actually use Threads. I see it as more like maybe I'll find somebody from, that we used to be friends with on Facebook, and I can reconnect and then actually just stay on Nostr and still interact that way. That's kind of the future I would like to see. But I don't see myself actually using the Threads app. I just wanted to check it out and see what it's like. So I wanted to show some of the recent developments in Amethyst. There are three tabs here. This is a whole new section where we have live streams here. So I can click on a live stream, see what.
You just got pretty ranky.
See what they're
I
streaming.
tell the Chanel runners, then I get back to running the city. And I know that it's hell coming.
Well, it's really just people kind of restreaming stuff. Yeah, trying to make a few sats that way. But then you'll have other streams, like you'll have people BTC sessions streaming. Right now, this one's not live, but you'll have a major. You'll have that, yeah. You'll have that. You'll have people coding. You definitely get some. This is a global view, or I could limit it to just some of my lists that I have or my follows. Oh, if you want to be a streamer, it's a little bit involved. I think most people end up using OBS and Cloudflare. I haven't actually gone down that road yet. We are going to look at Nostr communities. I think there's there's something paradoxical about Nostr communities, like the Reddit style community, because we take a permissionless, censorship resistant base layer and build a moderated, censored platform on top of it. And I think that's great. So,
A lot of people like moderation, including me. Desktop, or is it just Android?
just Android.
You can run, if you have a Windows machine, you can run Linux apps on it. Just Windows is the operating system.
What is Windows?
I might have said this before, but ironically, I want following only on Twitter and algo on Nostr,
Nice.
but I'm living in the
Well, it makes sense. He's saying it'd be nice to have only real-time updates from Twitter and algorithms on Nostr, and I can totally see that because the algorithm on Twitter is evil. It'd be better, like, and it's enticing too. Like, you always have the option. You can just see your yeah. So let's look at communities. This is actually my community, Bookster community. And I've actually been pretty amazed how much activity there's been on here in the last few days. There's a counterpart to it. So Amethyst is not really a do everything app. It's more like a see everything app. So for example, lists, you can't create a list in Amethyst, but it uses lists. Communities are similar. So here, Satellite Earth is a full-fledged client for communities. So if I go over here to communities, here's my Bookster community, and this is where I can actually create and moderate a community. And moderation is basically, there's a queue here for new posts that can be approved. And right now they're all in the approved status. If someone's going to create a community, it is important to be active here because you'd like to get new posts approved quickly so that people aren't waiting around.
Or if you were to post something inside that community, does everybody see it like on dominance and posts?
Because Nostr is an open protocol, and the question was, can everyone see it? Like, if there's a post in this community, can everyone see it? I think that the short answer is yes. It's an open protocol. All events are out there in the public. But the idea around the moderation is, if someone's using a client that opts into the NIP for it, I think it's NIP 172 system, then they'll only show the posts that have been approved, unless somebody goes out of their way to find them. So in Amethyst here, in a community, if I join, it doesn't really work too well yet. I keep having to rejoin, so that's not really functional. But the idea behind it is, if you join, now any approved post in this community will show up in my feed. Does that answer the question? And yeah, people could also share posts. These are just Nostr. Well, most of what you see in a community is just a regular kind one post. The initial, like the community event itself, like if we go back to the communities tab, Bookster, AI, Nostr tech support. There's one event that represents each community, and that itself is a special event kind that has to be supported. But every thread, every discussion within a community is just a kind one.
So it's a reply every. Okay, so you make this meta event and then people are just replying.
I'm not.
Is it like reply or?
Well,
I mean,
I would have to look at the event JSON for these. Like these are discussions. I'm not sure if each discussion. I'm sure it tags the original like community, so you might consider it a reply in that sense. But then there's replies to these discussion posts.
yeah.
So for the most part, you're really just dealing with regular kind one events. The community stuff is more around discovery of these kind one events. It replaces so many things. I mean, I think Amethyst replaces Telegram. Now it's replacing Reddit. Yep. Well, and there's another paradoxical feature is having private data on a protocol where everything's public data. So it's interesting to see where things will go with that.
And Amethyst has Zaps.
Yes, Amethyst has Zaps. Another cool thing out of these three new tabs here is the chats tab. So Amethyst has supported chat channels for a while, but discovery has been a problem. Now you have better ways to discover channels. I can see channels that people I follow are in. I could look at global and discover more channels, or I could use some of my lists and see, kind of narrow it down more and just see people within this list that are active in chat channels. I thought it was interesting that out of all the people that I muted, there were no communities created. I guess there were a little bit of chat activity, but and I've muted I think over 30 people. So just thought that was interesting. Oh, but I have more, but we can wrap it up if you guys want to hear more, or wrap it up now. One last thing just on the subject of chats is that Amethyst, just like it's really bad about joining these communities and losing that setting, it's also been pretty bad for me about losing chat channels that I've joined, and I'm constantly rejoining them. So a pretty good workaround I found that works for now is I just made my public bookmarks a bunch of public chat channels, and I had to do this basically just through Nostr hacking the raw events together to make this happen. There's no client for it, but I think it's a pretty good way to have like a curated list of channels. So we'll wrap it up with that. Thanks, everyone.